The roar of the crowd rolled through the arena like thunder. It wasn't the sound of celebration, it was the sound of hunger. They came from all across the empire, their faces pressed against the translucent force field that separated them from the blood that would be spilled on the circular floor below. Some chanted, others screamed, and many simply waited with cold, hungry anticipation. The king sat high above, a silhouette against the halo of light that crowned his throne. He did not need to speak to command the crowd. His presence alone was law. In the center of the arena, under the glow of suspended lights, a door slid open with a hiss. From the darkness emerged a man. He was not tall by the Empire's standards, nor particularly muscular. His clothes were worn, the seams frayed, the fabric dusted with the grime of transport ships and prison cells. Shackles still hung from one wrist, though the lock had been disengaged. His steps were slow, not hesitant, but measured, like a man who knew every eye was on him and did not care. A murmur rippled through the crowd. A human. They had not seen one in years. Earth had fallen long ago, its rebellion crushed beneath the Empire's heel. The survivors were scattered across the stars, sold as laborers, pets, and, occasionally, entertainment. This man, with sunken eyes and a calm expression, was meant to be the latter. The king raised a single finger, and the arena dimmed. Another door opened across the platform. The warrior stepped forward, her armor gleaming like obsidian touched by firelight. Every piece of her suit was designed to intimidate and protect, from the razor-edged pauldrons to the helmet that obscured her face, save for two glowing slits where her eyes watched. In her right hand, she carried a long sword made of synth metal, forged in a gravity well, sharp enough to cleave reinforced steel. In her left was a whip coiled like a serpent, pulsing with an electric current. She was the king's champion. She had felled titans and monsters. Her victories were etched into the very bones of the arena floor. She looked at the human. He looked back. No fear. No bravado. Just a quiet stillness. The king's voice finally echoed through the chamber, deep and smooth like oil over stone. Do not kill him. That is too merciful. Show our guests the worth of human pride. Humiliate him. The crowd erupted again, voices crashing together into a single wave of anticipation. The warrior did not speak. She walked toward the center of the platform with slow precision, blade trailing sparks along the metal floor. She stopped a dozen paces from him. The man raised his eyes and examined her. His hands hung loosely at his sides. He wore no armor, held no weapon. Her voice crackled through the comm system in her helmet, directed only at him. Kneel and I'll make it quick. Stay standing and you'll beg for death. He responded by shifting his stance, slightly, left foot forward, right shoulder back. She took that as an answer. The whip snapped from her side, arcing through the air with a shriek. He ducked. The crowd gasped. She lunged. Her sword sang as it sliced through the space where his torso had been a moment before. He moved with the precision of someone who knew not just how to fight, but how to survive. The audience, expecting a slaughter, fell into an uneasy silence. She struck again. And again. Each attack met empty air or the dull clank of her weapon brushing his clothes as he slipped past her strikes. He didn't counter. Didn't lash out. He was watching, reading her. The warrior growled. Stop dancing. But that was the only thing he didn't do. He weaved, turned, stepped aside with the grace of a man who had learned movement not in a classroom, but on battlefields. Frustration leaked into her strikes. The whip lashed out once more, catching his forearm with a hiss. He flinched, a thin line of red welling beneath his sleeve, but he didn't back away. Instead, he stepped forward. Close enough now that her sword was too long to be useful. She tried to retreat, but his hand shot forward and gripped her wrist. One move. He twisted. The sword clattered to the floor. In the same breath, his other hand came up, not with a fist, not with brute force, but with calm intent. It struck just beneath her helmet, at the base of her jaw, where the armor segmented. A single, surgical blow. Her knees buckled. She dropped. The crowd screamed. Gasps, confusion, chaos. The champion of the Empire lay on one knee, clutching her throat as sparks sputtered from her helmet. He had not drawn blood. He had not shattered bone. He had broken her armor, and with it, her pride. The king stood, fury etched across his face. But the human did not press the advantage. He stepped back, allowing the warrior to rise. She looked up at him, eyes visible now through the cracked visor. There was no hatred in her gaze. Just disbelief. The king's voice thundered. "End him." But she didn't move. Neither did he. The crowd was no longer roaring. They were listening. The human bent down slowly, picked up the sword she had dropped, and placed it upright between them, its tip touching the floor. Then, without a word, he turned his back to her and walked to the edge of the arena. The guards didn't move. Neither did she. The silence stretched like a held breath. When he reached the gate, it hissed open once more. And the king, for the first time in years, found himself unsure of what to say. The warrior still knelt, one hand on her knee, the other on her fractured helmet. And the crowd, without knowing why, began to cheer. The air inside the chamber felt different than it had before. Not colder, not warmer, simply heavier. The silence that had followed the duel had not dispersed, only transformed, thickening into tension that hung over every corridor, every guard, every whisper that passed between servants. The king had left the arena without a word, his expression unreadable, his orders uncertain. In her private quarters, the warrior stood before a mirror, her armor still partially broken from the strike. She hadn't repaired it yet. She'd stared at the damage for hours, tracing the jagged fracture along the helmet's chin guard, the dent near the collar where the human's blow had landed. She'd run her fingers over it again and again, not understanding why it wasn't just anger she felt. Something else churned beneath the surface, something unfamiliar and sharp. She had fought creatures from gas giants, silicate beasts with claws like monoliths, and automated drones programmed for one thing, her death. None of them had done this to her. No, that human, he had looked at her not as a predator or a victim. He hadn't even looked at her like a rival. He had looked at her like someone who had seen everything already and found none of it worth fearing. She didn't know his name. That detail infuriated her more than the loss. Word spread fast within the imperial complex. She heard it in hushed voices in the halls, saw it in the way the soldiers looked at her, not with pity, but with disbelief. No one dared mock her, not aloud. But the whispers dripped with curiosity and speculation, and worse, admiration, for him. She requested an audience with him. Unconventional, yes, but the king had not issued any orders since the mash. Perhaps he too was waiting to understand what had unfolded. Perhaps he too was unsure of how to proceed. They brought her to a detention room deep in the lower decks of the arena complex. Not a cell, exactly, more like a neutral chamber, stripped of weapons or surveillance, guarded only by two silent sentinels at the door. When she stepped inside, he was already there, seated on a bench, a pitcher of water and two glasses between them. He looked up as she entered. There was no smugness in his face. Only calm, steady eyes. She sat across from him. The silence stretched. "You didn't kill me," she said. "You didn't try to kill me either," he replied. She tilted her head slightly. "I was told to humiliate you. I noticed." He poured water into one of the glasses and slid it toward her. "How'd that go?" Her lips twitched, almost a smile, almost not. "Not well." She didn't take the glass. He leaned back. "Why are you here?" "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "But I can't stop thinking about what you did. About how you did it. You think I cheated?" "No. That's the problem." She watched him, trying to read more in his face. He had the expression of someone who'd come to terms with too much and now only engaged when absolutely necessary. It wasn't detachment. It was control. "I trained under 6 masters," she said. "Studied war for half my life. Fought in over 80 sanctioned matches. And you defeated me in a single move." He shrugged. "Timing." "No," she said. "Purpose." He looked at her then, and something shifted in his gaze. Not aggression. Not challenge. Recognition. "You fought a lot," he said. "But you've never been broken." "Not really." She blinked. "You think you broke me?" "I think," he said, "you were already cracking." I just tapped the right spot. A beat passed. Then, slowly, she reached up and removed her helmet. It hissed slightly as it disconnected from the armor, revealing her face, angular, sharp-featured, alien and yet unmistakably sentient. Her eyes were deep violet, filled with a strange, quiet intensity. I want to understand, she said. Understand what? You. That, for the first time, seemed to throw him. No one's asked that before, he admitted. Then it's time someone did. He took a breath, as if weighing something deep and heavy. I was a soldier, he began. During the last days of the Earth resistance. We held for longer than we had any right to. Not because we were stronger, but because we knew we were weaker. It made us desperate. Creative. You weren't born a fighter. No. I was born a civilian. A programmer. Watched my city burn from a rooftop. She said nothing. I fought because there was no one else left to do it. When it was over, I survived. Not because I was the best. Because I was the one who made peace with dying and kept fighting anyway. There was something in his voice, an ache not just from pain, but from the memory of how long it had lasted. They broke your world, she said quietly. They broke everything. But they didn't take the important part. And what's that? He leaned forward. The choice. She looked down at the table, then at the water she had refused earlier. She took the glass now, sipping it as if doing so acknowledged something between them. I was told you'd beg for your life, she said. I was ready to die, he replied. And now? Now, he said, I'd like to see what happens next. Her calm pained. The summons. She stood, replacing her helmet. The king wants to see us. Separately, I assume. He nodded. I'll be here. She hesitated at the door. If it comes to a rematch. He raised an eyebrow. I'll strike first. She left before he could reply. The king's throne room was darker than usual. The ceiling had been dimmed, the golden crown above his seat more shadow than light. He did not gesture for her to kneel. He merely watched her as she approached. You failed, he said without anger. And yet the people cheer. She remained silent. He should be dead. You had the order. I followed the intent if not the letter, she said carefully. He is not just a man. He's a symbol now. Even to the crowd. The king's eyes narrowed. Symbols can be broken. Yes, she said. But they have to be understood first. He studied her. You've changed. I've been challenged. He stood, robes rippling as he descended the steps toward her. Do you respect him? I respect what he endured. Good, the king said. Then you won't hesitate next time. Her jaw tightened. There won't be a next time. There must be, the king hissed. The people must see him fall. See you triumph. And if I lose again? Then you both die. She said nothing. Prepare, the king ordered. The rematch will be tomorrow. And this time, it ends in blood. She left without responding. The corridors were quieter now, the murmurs hushed and replaced with watchful eyes. She did not go back to her quarters. She returned to him. He was still seated, same posture, same silence. You spoke with him? He asked. She nodded. Is it to be a rematch? Yes. When? Tomorrow. He breathed in. To the death. Likely. He looked up at her, searching her expression. Do you intend to win? I intend, she said slowly, to choose. He nodded. Then we may both live. They sat in silence for a long time after that. The arena had never been this silent. Not even during the final moments of a duel. It was the kind of silence that came before a storm, before something irreversible happened. Every seat was filled, every breath was held. All eyes were on the platform where two figures stood opposite each other again, one clad in newly repaired armor, the other still wearing the same tattered uniform from their last encounter. The king sat above, his gaze burning with expectation. This was not a fight for dominance now. It was a display, a command-given form, an assertion of control over the hearts of those watching. They wanted blood. He needed it. She looked at the man across from her. This time, her helmet was off from the start. A quiet act of defiance. Her face was calm, unreadable. But beneath that calm, 1,000 thoughts churned. Not of strategy. Not of fear. Of choice. He held no sword this time. He had not requested one. Instead, he stood with open hands, his expression steady. "So it's really to the death," he said. "Yes," she replied. "By the king's decree. And by yours." She paused. Still undecided. He nodded. "Then we begin." No trumpet sounded. No official called it. But as their feet shifted and the circle sealed beneath them, the match was already underway. She struck first this time. Quick, precise. A feint to test him. He dodged smoothly, ducking low, pivoting on the edge of the platform. Her second strike came harder, aimed at his ribs, but again he evaded, not with brute strength, but with economy. Every move he made was to avoid wasting energy, to redirect hers. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying not to lose. The audience noticed. They grew restless. The rhythm of the fight was unlike their brutal entertainments. This wasn't spectacle, it was chess. She pressed harder. The tempo shifted. Her blade hissed through the air, a blur of motion and steel. He blocked a few with his forearms, grunting, the impacts jarring up through bone and nerve. Blood welled at one elbow. A cut opened on his brow. Still, he did not strike back. "You're holding back," she said between breaths. "So are you," he replied. She circled him. "Why?" "Because we both know this isn't about us anymore." Her jaw tightened. Her next strike was real, faster than the rest, a sweep for his legs that could have crippled him. He barely leapt back in time. He stumbled, nearly lost his footing, but righted himself. A cheer erupted from the crowd. Blood and motion, this they understood. From above, the king leaned forward. She hesitated. For the first time, she looked up, met the king's eyes. Then she turned her gaze back to her opponent. "What do we do?" "We stop playing their game," he said. "How?" He raised his voice, not toward her, but to the audience. "This isn't justice," he shouted. "This is an honor. This is control masquerading as entertainment." Boos echoed down. Some stood. Some shouted for the match to resume. But others paused. Watching. The king rose from his throne. "Silence him." She looked at him. "Strike him down, warrior," the king commanded. "Obey." Her fingers tightened on the hilt. She took a step forward. Then another. The man held his ground, no fear in his eyes. No plea. She raised her sword. He closed his eyes. And then she turned. Faced the king. Lowered the weapon. Gasps rippled through the arena like thunder. The king's voice was low, but every microphone carried it like venom. "Traitor." "No," she said. "Free." He moved too fast for someone so heavy with robes and age. In one fluid motion, the king descended the steps, guards flanking him on either side. He did not draw a weapon, but the threat in his posture was unmistakable. "You think the crowd will protect you?" he said. "That they will cheer rebellion? You think one moment of mercy makes you more than a puppet?" The man stepped beside her. "Not mercy," he said. "Understanding." The king snarled. "Then understand this." He raised his hand. The guards moved. Two rushed the platform, energy batons primed, boots pounding the metal floor. She stepped forward, intercepting the first, disarming him with a twist and driving the hilt of his own baton into his solar plexus. The second she downed with a kick to the knee and a blow to the temple. Neither died. The man grabbed a baton, turned, and stood back to back with her as more approached. From the audience, cries of confusion gave way to something else. A shift in the air. A few began chanting. Then more. Her name. His name. The king realized too late the momentum was slipping. More guards poured into the arena. But some of them paused. Looked at each other. Two dropped their weapons. The others froze. The king screamed, but it was swallowed by the growing roar of the crowd. "We don't need a throne to lead," the man said quietly. "No," she agreed. "Only each other." She looked at the king, eyes blazing. "This is over." But he did not back down. He lunged toward them, fury incarnate. In his hand, a dagger drawn from beneath his cloak. She deflected it, barely, the blade grazing her arm. The man struck his wrist, forcing the dagger loose. It clattered across the floor. The king stumbled back. Silence again. Then the man picked up the blade, offered it to the warrior. She took it and set it down. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. A new chant rose, louder now. Justice. Justice. The king was seized, not by soldiers, but by his own advisors. The arena erupted. Days passed. The echoes of the uprising rippled outward. Other cities heard. Other warriors chose. The empire, once ruled by fear, found itself facing something it hadn't prepared for: hope. In a quiet room above the arena, they met again. No armor. No weapons. Just two people. "I still don't know your name," she said. "Kaelin." She nodded. "I am Lyra." They sat together as the sun dipped below the city's edge. "What now?" she asked. He looked out the window. "Now we build something worth protecting." She smiled. "Together." He nodded. And for the first time in their lives, neither of them felt alone.